It has been an all-action weekend of racing here at Monza in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. Expect the same. Race 3 set to get underway. Welcome to a fantastic circuit, one that lends itself year after year to great racing in Formula 3. 2 years ago, when the championship was last here, it was a weekend with driving standards being talked about. This weekend, it is all about the racing is being discussed because we've had so much overtaking, so much great battling, and two different winners. Lando Norris won the first, and Joel Eriksson won the second. And for this third race, Eriksson is on pole position once again. David Addison trackside, and the cars making their way to the grid after their installation lap. The race itself is 33 minutes plus 1 lap. And there is the man who has now taken 2 race wins, number 1, Joel Eriksson, and comes into this as the championship leader because he's now 7 points ahead of Lando Norris, who will start with him at the front of the grid. Callum Ilott is going to line up third with his teammate Guan Yu Zhao for company ahead of Ferdinand Habsburg, who's had a really good weekend, and Maxi Günther alongside him. Ralph Aaron 7th. Jehan Daruvala is 8th on the grid ahead of Nikita Mazepin, and then Jake Dennis rounding out the top 10. 11th is where you find Harry Newey, who went well in the second race, but had a little bit of contact and it damaged the wing end plate and he retired. Mick Schumacher is 12th, having been on the podium in race 2. Jake Hughes 13th, Marino Sato 14th, ahead of Pedro Piquet, Tadasuke Makino, Kevin Suri, Joey Mawson, and then David Beckman, who's having a really horrible weekend, lining up at the back of the grid. He's been penalised for engine changes, for track limits. He's had pit stops in races with problems. None of the VAR cars, the Van Amersfoort racing cars, have looked that fleet of foot over the weekend, up until race 2, where both Mawson and Newey made progress. Joey Mawson in the end had a puncture, and that did for him. The car was sideways, and it turned out it was the air coming out of the tyre. That eventually went bang, and he had a pit stop to replace it. But Harry Newey, until the contact, was going really strongly. Joel Eriksson on pole position. Now, remember the way the regulations work in this championship. You've got 4 sets of new tyres to use across 2 qualifying and 3 races. So drivers have tried to keep some fresh rubber for this last race of the weekend. Lando Norris, I understand, has 2 new tyres. The front right on Joel Eriksson's car does not look new at all, but the rears, I think, could be. So if he's got 2 new tyres on the car as well, then he should be able to take the fight to Lando Norris, who did a very good job in the second race on used rubber of bringing the gap down from over 3 seconds to 7/10 at the end in his pursuit of Joel Eriksson. They've had 2 wins apiece. Lando Norris there lining up second on the grid, the young British driver, the winner of last year's BRDC McLaren Autosport Young Driver of the Year award. And Lando Norris with the inside line on the run down towards the Variante del Rettifilo, the first chicane, and comes into this 7 points back in the championship. Lining up third, Callum Ilott, the Prema cars, for whom Callum drives, Prema Power Team, has not really had a good weekend because, sad to say, they've struggled for outright pace against Carlin or Motor Park, and Callum himself has faded a bit in the races. Yesterday there was contact that did some damage that affected him, and that's why he dropped down. The earlier race today, he just seemed to lose pace as the race wore on. So Prema, although it's a good team, a top team potentially, not looking as strong as Carlin or Motor Park, even though they've got a lot of their drivers up near the pointy end. And there's another of them, Guan Yu Zhao, the Ferrari Driver Academy member, and he has had quite a lot of experience racing in this part of the world because he was the runner-up to Ralph Aaron in the Italian Formula 4 Championship 2 seasons ago. The Chinese driver for the Italian team, even though, by the way, we have 11 nationalities represented on the grid, we don't have an Italian driver. We have an Austrian, that's Ferdinand Habsburg there, with his well-used right front. He was on the podium yesterday with 3rd place, and he raced very strongly this morning as well. He got squeezed out into the gravel early on, and undaunted, fought back, and at the end of the race, have got himself back up into 5th place. So Ferdinand Habsburg going strongly. And the fans, and there are plenty of them here, in fact, for an FIA event of Formula 3 and World Touring Cars, European Touring Cars, giving themselves a good vantage point for this last race. Maxi Günther is 6th on the grid for this final Formula 3 race of the weekend. See how much wear the front rights have had on just about everybody's car over the weekend as you look down through the grid. And Maxi Günther, a runner-up last year in the championship to Lance Stroll, in theory, therefore, ought to be on for the title this season, but it's not been a stellar start. So far, Maxi Günther has had a 3rd, 2 4ths at Silverstone, a 7th and a 4th here. Ralph Aaron was a race winner last year, but he's only 14th in the championship coming into this race, the Estonian driver, who's had a retirement, a 16th and a 10th at Silverstone, and an 8th and 9th here thus far. Can he salvage a better result? Can he get himself into the top 6 coming into the next round at Pau, where they go to the streets of the French town? Wonderful place to go and watch motor racing, and Formula 3 is there next. But a total contrast from the fast slipstreamer of Monza. 27 is Jahan Daruvala, who was on the podium yesterday, second, and the first Indian ever on an FIA Formula 3 European Championship podium. He was the runner-up in the rookies contest as well yesterday to Lando Norris, but he led the bulk of the race. He only lost out in the last 6 minutes or so and was really frustrated that he was never quite able to fight back. But Jahan Daruvala has had a good weekend. He qualified here 2 years ago on pole position in Formula Renault. Did it again for race 1 in Formula 3. You've got Nikita Mazepin lining up next on the grid. He is 9th, the Russian, for high-tech. And then to round out the top 10 is a man who's only doing a part programme in the championship this year, and it's 21 Jake Dennis, who you'll see in a moment. Jake, just to mention the story, is racing in the Blancpain GT series this year, and so was here a week ago, driving the Audi R8 LMS. That is in contravention of Formula 3 championship regulations. You can't race somewhere within 30 days of a Formula 3 round. But that programme was all signed and sealed before Carlin asked him to do these races, so it was the team that ended up being fined financially. Although 1 or 2 other teams aren't very happy about what they thought was a lenient penalty, Jake Dennis, unaffected, goes into racing this weekend, and he will do Pau, I think, and then sit out a few more rounds, might come back before the end of the year. Harry Newey, the MRF Challenge champion of 16-17, lines up next on the grid with the best place of the Van Amersfoort racing cars on the grid. And one of his old rivals from 2 years ago in F4 and this winter in the MRF Challenge, Mick Schumacher, is next on the grid. Mick, who was on the podium earlier on today, he was 3rd in the second race here of the weekend, his best finish of the season, indeed his only podium. And let's see what he can do, because he starts 12th, he's got work to do. 13th on the grid, Jake Hughes, the quick Brit, who has not had a great weekend thus far, but the former GP3 racer, he was 8th in GP3 last year, driving for high-tech. And he has had a 3rd place at Silverstone in the middle race, but here, 10th in the first race and 13th in the earlier one today. So he wants to try and turn around the weekend if he can. Marino Sato there, lining up for the high-tech team, number 33, yet to get in the points, but he was 11th in race 2 earlier on today. So he's knocking on the door, points in the top 10, 25 for a win. And looking down onto the grid there, number 5 is Pedro Piquet, who was penalised after an incident in race 1 for race 2, and tried to make some progress in that, but in the end had an off into the gravel and was a retirement. So all he's got to show for this weekend is a 16th place, but he did have 9th at Silverstone in the opener. Tadasuke Makino next on the grid. Again for high-tech, the Japanese driver with the Mercedes engine in the car, who was 5th in the Japanese Championship for Formula 3 cars last year, former Super GT racer as well on occasion, and now turning his attention to European racing. The next driver is Kevin Suri, number 47, who drives for Motor Park. Then it will be Joey Mawson, the reigning German F4 champion, and David Beckman at the back of the grid. And just to confirm how they line up, that's the top 10. Ericsson, Norris, Eilert, Zhao, Habsburg, Günther, Aaron, Daruvala, Mazepin and Dennis, ahead of Newey, Schumacher, Hughes, Sato, Piquet, Makino, Suri, Mawson and Beckman. Again, you see 2 of the Van Amersfoort cars at the back of the grid. In fairness to David Beckman, an engine change has put him there with a 10-place grid drop. But Joey Mawson has had a really frustrating weekend as well. Drive-through penalty in race 1 for tangling with Pedro Piquet, his teammate, and then a puncture in race 2, also doing for his chances. So it's been a disappointing 2 days. The teams were here early in the week for 2 days of testing, which again is allowed in the regulations. There are nominated days where you can test at a circuit, and that was almost washed out because there was so much rain in the week that relatively little was learnt. They got a little bit of running in, but it was frustrating for the teams. The grid is formed, and in a moment they will be flagged away. The drivers ready for this final warming up lap. It's the last opportunity to get some warmth into the rubber. And then 33 minutes plus a lap, which is about 20 laps, depending on if we get a safety car. And astonishingly, we haven't had safety cars used very much all weekend. 1 in the French F4 race last night, 1 in World Touring Cars about 45 minutes or so ago. Formula 3, he says, finding wood to touch, has behaved impeccably. So the cars accelerate away, and with the sunshine, it is Joel Eriksson then who will lead them around. There is, remember, to keep an eye on the overall and the rookie element of this race as well. There's a separate rookie classification, and podium there's the team's classification as well. But in terms of overall, coming into this race, it is Joel Eriksson on 92 points, Lando Norris on 85, and already they're getting away from Maxi Günther on 57, Callum Ilott 51, after a frustrating weekend for Callum, 9th and 7th. Then you've got Jake Dennis on 38, and equal 6th, Jehan Daruvala and Mick Schumacher, 35 points apiece. 10 racing weekends, 30 races, of course, across the course of the season. 2 street circuits, there's Pau and there's the Norris Ring as well. Grand Prix circuits, for example, are Silverstone, where they've been, Monza here. They have Spa on the calendar, they've got Hockenheim as well, and that's how the championship looks. Joel Eriksson confirming that advantage going into the final race of the weekend here. Pedro Piquet at the tail end of the championship standings, relying on those 2 points from 9th place at Silverstone. So the drivers work their way up towards the Variante Ascari, turn their way into the left, right, left sequence. That brings them onto that fast straight down towards the Parabolica, and then through that long right-hander that loops them round to the start line. And then, if you didn't get a tow heading into the Parabolica, you've got the long pit straight all the way down to turn 1, the Variante da Rettifilo, and that's another opportunity, as we saw in race 2 earlier on today, to get a tow. And in fact, so often the case was that people would get a tow, gain the place, and there was still enough straight left for the guy behind to drag back up into contention and overtake to retake the place going into the chicane. Joel Eriksson, however, in the earlier race today, the absolute master on the opening lap on coldish tyres of pushing, pushing, pushing and breaking away. We shall see whether he's going to be able to do the same thing here. That's Jehan Daruvala heading up to the grid. Joel Eriksson, as he did for the earlier race today, doing lots and lots of weaving, trying to make sure the tyres have got enough temperature in so he can push on the first lap. But Lando Norris, who isn't yet, in fairness to him, a master of starting a Formula 3 car, admits it's the one chink in the armour, really. Didn't make great starts at Silverstone, didn't yesterday, but fought back for a win. This morning's start was a bit sluggish, and what that means is that he spends a few laps having to fight his way back into contention. If he can nail the start here, he could be on for a win. We'll see how it pans out. There's Nikita Mazepin and Jake Dennis slotting into place for High-Tech in the silver colours, Carlin in the blue. And Mercedes and Volkswagen in terms of engines. Everyone, of course, with Dallara chassis. But although they all have the F317, the F317 chassis, variety of teams running them, and, of course, 2 different engine manufacturers powering them. Green flag at the back says that everybody has returned. 5 red lights will go on. When the lights go out now, we're racing. Good start from the second row by Callum Ilott to get up alongside Lando Norris. Around the other side of him goes Guan Yu Zhao. Norris tries to defend. So does Joel Eriksson, who moves across, but it's Ilott who's got the drop on everybody. Eriksson second. Ferdinand Habsburg in the blue car on the outside line tries also to gain ground as they head down towards the first chicane. Are they all going to get through safely? So far, so good. Norris drops back into 4th place. Eriksson second, and Callum Ilott it is then who leads the way as they accelerate up for the first time through the Curva Grande. There, having to defend, is Joel Eriksson as Guan Yu Zhao comes up the inside. The Prema car on the inside of the Curva Grande, the outside line for the Variante della Roggia, to which they come now. But he's gone through, he takes the place. Eriksson is down to 3rd, around the outside there goes number 3, Günther for 4th, goes wide. Here comes Norris back up the inside line. Wheel to wheel as they head now up towards the first of the Lesmos. Lando Norris goes through on the inside. Ferdinand Habsburg tries to follow suit as well, but then Lando Norris goes way wide up the curb. At the moment, Prema 1-2, the best we've seen out of the Italian squad all weekend. Ilott lead, Zhao second, 3rd is Eriksson, 4th is Norris, 5th is Günther, and then in 6th place Ferdinand Habsburg, 7th is number 7 Ralph Aaron. And he's coming under attack because Harry Newey is right with him in the VAR car as they work their way now through for the first time the Variante Ascari, and absolutely on the giddy limit there. Joel Eriksson, the car nearly getting away from him as he tries desperately hard to push and stay with that leading group, and he's giving a tow to Lando Norris, who's going to make a move as he's coming down to the Parabolica. Norris goes to the inside, Eriksson defends, but Lando Norris thinks about keeping on going, and he does, and he goes up the inside and he gets the job done. Brave stuff. Lando Norris through, but he goes a little bit wide. Now, Joel Eriksson might just be able to draft him back again on the way down to the Rettifilo, and very wide there goes Mick Schumacher. Schumacher off the road in the Parabolica, back on. Drivers with 2 wheels over the white line. We had touring car people being penalised for all 4 over that off the starting grid earlier on in the day, and it's almost 3 wide as they come down to the first chicane. With Ericsson back up the inside of Norris, he has retaken the place. Newey locks up there, scrabbles into the first chicane, gets away with it, and now accelerating his way up towards the Curva Grande with Jem de Rivera dropping back. But there now, look, you've got Norris and Ericsson again side by side for 3rd place. They've each had a turn there. Lando Norris goes back ahead. Ericsson switches sides. Maxi Gunter is in the mix, and the leader locks up. Callum Islet going down towards the Variante della Roggia. Did he get away with that? I think he did. Plenty have skipped over the curbs over the weekend. But what's going on for de Rivera? He's giving away place after place. He might have a problem as the leaders work their way now up towards the Lesmos, and Jake Dennis has got difficulties. He's in the pit lane, and Jake Hughes is in as well. So I'm afraid if you call Jake, it's not been a good first lap. So both of them in the pit, somebody in the gravel, bouncing back towards the road is Harry Newey. So he drops behind Kevin Suri, he drops behind 33 there, which is the Motor Park car of Marino Sato. So Harry Newey, who raced well in race 2, up until the contact that put him out, I'm afraid to say drops down the order. There's Pedro Piquet. Crash helmet designed the same as his father's. Last year he was in pseudo Parmalat colours to replicate the Parmalat Brabham that Nelson Senior used to race, but now the corporate Van Amersfoort colours for this season. There's Lando Norris, and Joel Eriksson then dropping back because he's also lost out now to Maxi Gunter. He's coming under attack from Ferdinand Habsburg, who comes through with Ralph Aaron behind him. Over the timing line they go. The lead gap is half a second. Islet to Zhao. Lando Norris 3rd, Gunter 4th, so it's Prema 1, 2, 4 at the moment. And there, the gap is coming down between the race leaders. Lando Norris setting off in pursuit of them. Habsburg fending off Ralph Aaron there as they dive down to the first chicane. Mick Schumacher hustling on behind Joey Mawson. Now, he's made good progress, hasn't he? Because Mawson started 18th on the grid, and he's up now into, what, 10th place. Excellent job. Whatever Van Amersfoort has found since qualifying yesterday for today, it really has worked, because all of the cars seem to be an awful lot quicker than they were yesterday, where they really struggled in the race and in the qualifying session. Habsburg losing out to Ralph Aaron, and there Gunter ahead of Joel Eriksson, the two of them still tied together and almost off the road there. Pedro Piquet went for a gap that soon disappeared. That was Habsburg with his elbows out, and he's dropped back to 7th behind Ralph Aaron. And again, for Ralph Aaron, it's the best we've seen of him all weekend, so he's really pushing hard. Fastest lap so far, and it'll change, I'm sure, is Nikita Mazepin, and he currently is down in 9th place. Monza has always been a place where the slipstream is important in Formula 3. We've seen it all weekend, and we're going to see plenty more evidence as the cars work their way now up towards the end of lap 3 of a projected 20. Mazepin on the back of Habsburg. There is Mawson. Spectacular to watch. Race leaders now blast their way down to the Parabolica. Up front, it's Callum Islet. He had a win at Silverstone, but it's not been a great weekend for him. 9th, then 7th. He needs to turn his fortunes around here as Marino Sato there gets up the inside of Kevin Suri in 47. The two Motor Park teammates run together. Suri goes off the racing line over the white line. Over the timing line has gone Callum Islet. Just done the fastest lap of the race. Still Sato and Suri are side by side as they head down to the Rettifilio, with on the inside line Marino Sato, on the outside line Kevin Suri. And that, Joel Eriksson around the outside of Maxi Gunter for 4th place. Eriksson fights back. He's not taking all this line down. He may have lost out from pole position, but he's not given up, and he's trying to salvage as many points as he can. Eriksson knows it's a long season of 30 races. This round 6 as the cars work their way now through the Curva Grande. A lock-up ahead as they turn their way into the left and the right, and almost banging wheels. Eriksson there with Maxi Gunter as they sprint their way now up towards the first of the Lesmos. To the inside line goes Gunter, behind him Habsburg. He's making his car incredibly wide. Now these two are being caught, aren't they? Hand over fist by Ralph Aaron, who is up with them. Habsburg is next in the queue, having got himself back ahead of Piquet. Meanwhile, up front, Islet leads Zhao by over a second. 3rd is Lando Norris, who is not yet lapping as quickly as the leader, but he is closing on Zhao. Schumacher to the inside line now. This should give him a place, does it? Let's see. He's still on the back of Joey Mawson, though, and Mawson in turn is on the back of Piquet. So we've had a lot more shuffling around this lap. Jehan Daruvala in 27, the Force India junior driver, turning his way out of the chicane, but still, sad to say, struggling to make progress. His weekend has gone backwards rather than forwards after it started so well for Q1 and race 1. There he is on the inside, and Daruvala tries to get up alongside David Beckman, who's also making progress. So again, there's evidence that VAR might have turned a corner here, except that Beckman runs wide and loses out to Daruvala once again. But in contrast, Piquet and Mawson are making progress, and there is Norris now right up alongside Zhao for second place, wheel to wheel, down to the chicane, and Guan Yu Zhao hangs on to the position. Joey Mawson is being warned about track limits, but this battle now could be ideal for Callum Ilott. He's going to try and extend the advantage whilst the two behind trip over themselves, hold each other up. Through they come. Zhao ahead of Norris. Norris to the outside line. Again, Callum Ilott locks up going into that corner, giving the tyres plenty of abuse. And Zhao flicks the car sideways as he puts the power down early, corrects the slide. Norris to the inside in the first of the Lesmos. He'll go through. Will he on the inside? He should do. Yes, there was room, and he's done it. Lando Norris through, goes wide up the curb. That might give Zhao the chance to fight back, but Lando Norris now should be able to get his head down and go after the race leader. The gap between them was a second and a half when it was first to third. Now let's see how quickly Norris can bring that down. They're heading into the Variante Ascari. This lap 5 out of 20. There behind them, number 1, Joel Eriksson, who's shaken off for the moment, Maxi Günther. Now, where is the next battle going to come from? Let's have a look. As you see, 27, Jehan Daruvala turned through. He was 14th going on to this lap. Harrison Newey at the back of that little group. 19 started, 17 have survived. The two Jakes, Dennis and Hughes, being the retirements. As there, number 1, Joel Eriksson, the championship leader coming into this race, works his way out of the Parabolica. Lando Norris, in the meantime, accelerates up towards the timing line. Behind him, there is Guan Yu Zhao. Norris, having done the fastest lap last time around, has now 1.9 seconds to make up to the race leader, Callum Ilott. They work their way down to that first chicane. We've seen Callum Ilott have a couple of lockups in this race already. There was a bit of tyre squeal, I fear, again from him there, as Schumacher and Mawson together, they arrive in the Rettifilio. It's ADAC F4 of last year continued this. They were teammates in that championship 2 seasons back. And this is the fight going on for the last point, 10th place. Schumacher is ahead now, so Joey Mawson, who was in the top 10 earlier, has actually dropped out again. Started 18th on the grid. He made decent progress early on in the race, but he wants to get back past Schumacher. Pedro Piquet further up the road as well. Looks for a way there past Nikita Mazepin in the silver car. They work their way now up through the right-hander of the first of the 2 Lesmos. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, Joel Eriksson. So now he's off in pursuit of Guan Yu Zhao. He's shaken off Günther. Eriksson could yet have a part to play in who gets onto the podium, I reckon. Ferdinand Habsburg through. He's 7th in the blue car. One of the Trevor Carlin fleet. Trevor not here this weekend. He's away looking after customers in the Euro F3 Open category. Fastest lap of the race, as I mentioned, to Joel Eriksson, and he's just done the best middle sector of anybody in the race. There's Piquet, 9th at the start of this 6th lap. Clock ticking on down, 33 minutes we have, plus a lap. And up front, Callum Ilott leads the way. Now, Sector 1, much quicker was Lando Norris. Sector 2, a little bit quicker was Ilott. Piquet on the back of Mazepin. And Schumacher now, having got himself up past Joey Mawson, almost up with these two as well. So Schumacher has the chance of gaining more ground, I think, before the end of the race. Over the timing line they come. Joel Eriksson with another fastest lap of the race now. In fact, he's just on a 1:44.4. The lap record used to be held by Charles Leclerc coming into this weekend from 2 years ago. As there, Mazepin versus Piquet into the first chicane. And Pedro Piquet hangs on to the place, just. There's one up the escape road there, but as the leaders work their way now for the 7th time up through the Curva Grande. Callum Ilott, race leader, and also these days the lap record holder, because he beat that lap of Charles Leclerc in race 2. So much of it is down to a toe around this circuit, but Callum Ilott at the moment has no toe to benefit from for anybody. That's the downside of being the race leader. And if Lando Norris can close, he'll get to a point where the slipstream drags him along. The toe works in his favour, and Callum Ilott will end up with Norris filling his mirrors. Now, there's an incident that's being investigated post-race, and it is between Jake Dennis and Jake Hughes, which would account for why the pair of them dropped out at the end of lap 1. So the stewards will look at that at the end of the race. There's much to enjoy at the moment, including Maxi Günther being told about respecting track limits, and Mick Schumacher, his teammate, hustling on here. Into the top 10 last time through. Next target will be Mazepin up the road as they work their way towards us. Pedro Piquet having got past the Russian driver. Effectively the first third of the race, give or take, just about done. Schumacher thinks about the inside against Mazepin. Joey Mawson is closing in on them as well behind as they turn their way through the Parabolica now and head up towards the line. Mazepin using all of the road. He works his way past the pits now. The timing line there is broken. That gives the data for lap 7. And it tells us that the gap is 11 tenths between Ireland and Norris. It's going to be game on between them, but look behind, because Guan Yu Zhao is not that far behind, and he's got Joel Eriksson with him, so it could be that we get the leading quartet all concertinaing up here. Challenge on the inside, Kevin Suri. On the outside line is Jehad Daruvala, and they touch, and Suri gets airborne into the gravel. He is, I fear, going nowhere. Kevin Suri and Jehad Daruvala make contact. And would you believe, as you see there, Guan Yu Zhao fending off Joel Eriksson still for third place, that Kevin Suri was just about to be warned for track limits. Well, it doesn't matter now. He's over the limit with help, and we've got a yellow flag in the chicane. Now, is that going to bring out a safety car, or will they be able to quickly get a snatch vehicle there and hoik it out of the way? I suspect, given where it has ended up in terms of proximity to an access point, they might be able to just get away with a waved yellow flag. We will see what the race director elects to do. There is Kevin Suri. He will trudge away. Well, he was ahead going into part 1. He was ahead going into part 2. And there wasn't really room for Jehad Daruvala on the inside. And so Daruvala ends up making contact. Rear wheel rides over front. And Kevin Suri bounces into the gravel. So yellows will be out at the chicane. 19 minutes still to go. Race leaders turn their way through. There's Mick Schumacher. So what the yellow flag means is that even if you get a tow, you won't be able to overtake down at the first chicane, or you will now, because the green flags have just come out. So the teams can tell the drivers it's clear, you can keep pushing. Through the first chicane they go. So the race continues unaffected by any safety cars or neutralisations. 33, Marino Sato goes ahead of Joey Mawson. Now, what is going on for the Australian? He had worked his way up into the top 10 early on. Now, having suggested that things were improving at VAR, Mawson is dropping place after place. He's fallen back into 12th position. Through goes number 1. That's Joel Eriksson, championship leader, winner of last year's Masters F3 competition. Had a race win in the championship as well last season, and now turning his way up through the Lesmo curves in pursuit of Guan Yu Zhao. It's still Callum Ilott leading Lando Norris, but the leading, what, 4-5 really, starting to bunch up. There's Günther, he's running 5th and 6th. You'll find Ralph Aaron in the background as well. Through they come, left, right, left at the Variante Ascari. Habsburg is 7th for Carlin, 8th for VAR is PK, 9th for High-Tech Mazepin, and 10th for Prema is Mick Schumacher. The distinctive bright yellow helmet of Mick Schumacher in the very background, coming onto the straight down to the Parabolica. The incident involving Daruvala and Suri is under investigation. The race leaders head over the timing line, with the gap being 1.3 seconds. The last lap, Ilott, in fact, was quicker than Lando Norris. Now, has Callum Ilott been another one that's been able to keep fresher rubber for this race? As now, Eriksson is very much looking for third place back from Guan Yu Zhao. They brush wheels almost, heading down to the chicane. Has Eriksson done it? Not quite. He was on the wrong line, so Guan Yu Zhao fends him off, and right into the mix now comes Maxi Günther, who's getting a double tow, really. He's also taking Ralph Aaron with him. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, great little battle going on between them, and Eriksson dives to the inside line. Door is open. He dumped it to the outside. That was covered by Zhao. Eriksson goes through. Günther will follow suit, I reckon. The two Prema teammates absolutely side by side. Eriksson is 3rd. Günther is 4th. Zhao down to 5th. And 6th is Ralph Aaron. the top two from 2 years ago in the Italian F4 Championship. Aaron was the champion, Zhao was the runner-up, and they are together, reverse order, on track now in F3. Guan Yu Zhao just keeping Ralph Aaron at bay. The Chinese driver ahead of the Estonian. They're behind German Günther, behind Swede Ericsson, up into third place. Now, Ericsson from pole, released through the traffic. Can he do anything about the top two up the road? Eilert, then Norris, then Ericsson. Going on to this lap, first to fourth as it was. Eilert to Ericsson was 2.7 seconds. So Joel Ericsson, if he's looking after the tyres, may not yet be out of the game. There's the lead situation, Eilert versus Norris. The two British drivers then working their way down towards the right-hander of the Parabolica. In third, it's Ericsson. What's going on lower down the order? Mick Schumacher versus Nikita Mazepin. They are side by side. Schumacher on the outside, and Mazepin slots back in behind him. That means that ninth place has just changed, and it's changed in favour of Schumacher. Joel Ericsson is being warned about track limits. Now that, if he continues to transgress, might affect life at the end, but for the moment, the third place driver being told about track limits, and so also is Ralph Aaron, the Estonian sixth for high-tech. There he is, right on the tail of Guan Yu Zhao now. So that's the fifth and sixth battle there, being caught by Ferdinand Habsburg, so we're not over yet there either. And we are just about at halfway as Aaron was having a look up the inside going to the Curva Grande. There's David Beckman in 55, who's got himself up past Tenosuke Makino. So Beckman now goes 14th, therefore, and Harrison Newey behind them. Right, Aaron to the outside of Zhao, locks up, and Guan Yu Zhao takes back the place. Habsburg to the inside of Aaron, can't do it there. The Estonian closes the door on the Austrian, so Ferdinand Habsburg works his way through the right of the first Lesmo. There is Guan Yu Zhao now trying to get away. And as soon as Ralph Aaron has had to start defending, that plays into his hands. The incident between Suri and Daruvala is deemed a racing accident and no further action is being taken. So, no further action between them. It's 2 into 1 wouldn't go, the stewards reckon. This is the replay of how Beckman got past Makino. All of this for 14th place, but David Beckman getting the job done with a toe on the outside line, the racing line, and taking it into the first chicane. Eilert to Norris, 1 second last time over the timing line. They have done 10, about to do 11 laps of the race. Through goes Callum Eilert. He's just done a personal best lap, and he's pulling away fractionally from Norris. Then you've got Joel Ericsson in third, lapping not quite as quick as the two ahead, and losing out potentially to Günther. Just managed to fend him off. Habsburg is the next one trying to attack Ralph Aaron for sixth. Doesn't work out for him. Ralph Aaron fends him off. Through they turn now for the 12th time. And that is third and fourth together. And for as long as they're squabbling, they're not being able to make any progress up against the top two. They need to work together here, and Günther goes through, retakes third place. Maxi Günther goes ahead of Joel Ericsson then. So Günther now showing good speed, gets a toe, takes the place. What can he do about the two ahead of him, and can he take Joel Ericsson with him if he can bring the gap down at all? Way wide in the background there, Guan Yu Zhao. Pushing on in the number 8 Kramer entry, and then behind him you've got Ralph Aaron. So number 1 Joel Ericsson works his way up to third, drops back to fourth. Zhao now being warned about track limits, perhaps not surprising. He's also having to defend because he's got Aaron and then Habsburg up behind him. Ralph Aaron goes through, change for fifth place then, diving down towards the Variante Ascari. Ralph Aaron goes through on the inside. 12 minutes and a lap, still to run as the cars blast their way now into the Parabolica once again. Ralph Aaron having to go defensive there because everywhere that Guan Yu Zhao wanted to go, Aaron had to make sure he was there first. So a little bit of weaving. He runs wide out of the Parabolica. And now Joey Mawson is being warned about track limits. Poor old Joey, what a day he's having. Down in 12th place as well. Zhao gets a toe, comes up alongside Aaron to retake the place. This is fifth, they're arguing over. They're side-by-side look in the background. Here they come on the inside. It's Ralph Aaron. Is he going to get the place back? Yes! Breaks late, goes through. Zhao 6th, Habsburg 7th in the blue car. The three of them as one as they head out of the chicane now. great time in third. It's Günther still fending off Joel Eriksson. There, fifth, Ralph Aaron. And here for sixth, tries to come Ferdinand Habsburg, the Austrian driver, up the inside, and he goes through, got the inside line on the curve. Grande moves across, defends the line heading into the Variante della Roggia. So Guan Yu Zhao slots back in behind him, and having been third early on, Zhao now is being mugged by all and sundry. We're on lap 13. 20 is the expected number, because that's what we've done in the previous two races of the weekend. As through there goes number 5, Pedro Piquet. 8th he was at the start of this lap. His next target is going to be Zhao, and Piquet showing the best form we've seen of him all weekend, really. He's kept out of trouble, and he's also got better car speed. Up front, it's a Mercedes engine leading a Volkswagen. Islet's Prema car ahead of Norris for Carlin. And the race leaders are about to work their way through the Parabolica once more. There is Callum Islet, who, in fairness, despite all the talk of Lando Norris, has managed to dig deep in this race and fend off Norris and maintain the gap after a great start. There, 33, Marino Sato trying to get past Nikita Mazepin, but to no avail. Works his way up towards the line, as also there, look, does Mick Schumacher, as he tries to gain ground against Pedro Piquet, so that's for 8th place, but Schumacher can't find a way through, slots back in behind. Piquet defends on the run now down towards the Rettifilo. Famous names united as the two of them head into the braking zone. Piquet fends off Schumacher for now. Next battle, Mazepin, and he is keeping at bay, as you can see, 33, so Marino Sato slots in behind him there. Through they turn with 9.5 minutes on the clock. The lead gap, 1.6 seconds. Lando Norris not being able to bring it down to Callum Islet. So far, I know there's still 9 minutes and a lap to go, but it's been a very impressive drive this by Callum. His third season in the championship, came into it out of karting as part of Red Bull's programme, much was expected. Red Bull cast him aside at the end of that year, so pressure off to a degree. He was able to get on at Van Amersfoort last year and learn and build on his experience of the first season. Took some wins, but couldn't in the end stem Lance Stroll's march to the title. But this year, Prema, exactly the driver they wanted to spearhead the assault, and Callum Islet has found a happy home at Prema Power Team. He's already been a race winner, and he might get a second here as well. We'd have the same 3 people winning here as we did at Silverstone, potentially, if Callum Islet, who won the third race in the UK, wins the third race in Italy. Retirement in the first race when he went off the road is what's blunted Callum's championship assault a little thus far, but over 30 races you can expect others to have their own strife. Piquet hard at work, comes out of the Parabolica, 8 minutes plus a lap to go as Callum Islet's gone through. The gap is 1.5 seconds. Islet to Norris. There coming up over the line, number 7. So Ralph Aaron keeping Ferdinand Habsburg behind him. To the inside line goes Aaron. Is that going to be enough to keep the place? It is. And off the road goes Habsburg. Well, he gains the place, but he's going to have to give that back, surely. Ralph Aaron back on the inside, does take the place back. Ferdinand Habsburg does the right thing there and lets him go. He can carry on the attack at the next corner, but he's got to be mindful that Guan Yu Zhao is right there as well, and so is Pedro Piquet. Habsburg on the outside line, and he's done it. Great move. Ferdinand Habsburg goes through. There's contact as Piquet rides at the back of Aaron, and round the outside comes Schumacher. Mick Schumacher gains out of all of that because he gets himself up past Guan Yu Zhao, he gets himself up past Pedro Piquet, so he's going to be 7th, isn't he now, Mick Schumacher? Great opportunistic move, and it all started with Ferdinand Habsburg at the chicane, the first chicane, not quite getting it right, then he had to give the place back, try again, and he did so. Great driving. We've seen the best of the Austrian this weekend. He didn't look all that great at Silverstone, but he really has impressed here. Podium in race 1, raced really feistily in race 2, and he's doing it again in race 3. Zhao, fading. This is a bit like we saw with Islet in the first race. Once you start to lose places and the traffic is up with you and they use your slipstream, there's not much you can do to stem the tide. Habsburg then gaining ground, he's up into 5th. There is Guan Yu Zhao, so after all the optimism from 4th on the grid, race unravelling for him as the leaders go by. 1.6 seconds between them, 6.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Through they turn. Marino Sato to the inside line there to try and get a place away now as they head down towards the chicane. He's up with Guan Yu Zhao. And is he going to be able to do it? No, Zhao just able to fend him off. Whoops, in trouble is Piquet, losing out because Zhao gets up and past him. Piquet fights back. Zhao on the inside line. On the outside is Piquet then as they make the run through the Curva Grande this time. Lap 16, we're on. Habsburg interview, then Aaron, then Schumacher, then it's Piquet and Zhao side by side. Mazepin is next, then Daruvala, and also in that mix, 33, Marino Sato. There are people that say you can't overtake in a Formula 3 car. They have clearly never been to Monza. The other great venue for Formula 3 is Spa, and we go there in July. Replay there of Harry Newey outbreaking teammate David Beckman and going up the escape road. But Monza is always a must-do for Formula 3 fans because it generates excellent racing, and you've seen so much of it this weekend. Callum Islet, though, has had a relatively quiet race, trouble-free. The British driver, who was very successful in his international karting days, moved straight into Formula 3, and now in his third season, many people's tip for the title, coming into the Parabolica ahead of Lando Norris, who has been the standout rookie thus far. Then, number 3, Maxi Günther, last year's runner-up, and Joel Eriksson. The pair of them, Günther and Eriksson, also potential champions. Günther, third year in the category. Eriksson, his second. But Maxi Günther, and you won't want reminding of it, yet to score a win. Indeed, he's only had one podium finish, and that was the first race at Silverstone. Into the last 5 minutes of the race then now, and Lando Norris doing his best to bring down the gap. It's 1.3 seconds as there. Eriksson gets forced wide, a wheel onto the dirt, and then tried to make the chicane. Eventually thinks, no, I better get up the escape road, which he does, and you can see how much time he's lost there to Maxi Günther. Let's have another look at it. Did Günther give him a squeeze, or was Eriksson being a bit optimistic? Either way, up the escape road, was going to turn right, and then thinks, no, I need to go up the escape road in its entirety, which he does. And here, Ralph Aaron squeezes up the inside. That's Schumacher with him. They raced together in F4 in the German Championship a couple of years back. Schumacher locking up, and Aaron has gone through. This is the fight for 6th place you're looking at. It was Schumacher's, it's now gone back to Aaron. Behind them is Pedro Piquet, who rode over the back wheel, didn't he, a lap ago of Ralph Aaron, but he's not showing any real signs of damage. Guan Yu Zhao is next, and the last scorer is Nikita Mazepin, with Jehan Daruvala also now making progress. Daruvala in 11th, fighting back after losing a lot of ground early in the race. Aaron and Schumacher together. Piquet next in the queue, he's 8th. 9th at the start of this lap. Zhao, there he is. And then 10th, Jehan Daruvala as the cars work their way onto that back straight. 3 minutes and change on the clock. This is lap 17. Through now, turns Ralph Aaron, doing his level best to keep at bay Mick Schumacher. Race leader goes through, 17 laps in the book. I'll get 2 more in the time, and then the regulation lap at the end. So effectively, 30 minutes of racing we've had. There, 53, Callum Islet, he has led race long. Is he going to be denied in these final few minutes? Let's see. Next battle to look at, Mick Schumacher back ahead of Ralph Aaron, so he goes 6th, does Mick Schumacher. Started off as Mick Jr. and then Mick Betch in his karting days to try and stay out of the spotlight, but when he came into car racing, initially in German F4, it became Mick Schumacher, and he has been, perhaps understandably, given the success that his father had for Ferrari, a very popular man in the paddock. There's always a huge scrum of people around the Prema trucks. There, round the outside of Aaron goes Piquet, and he gains now 7th place. And every time Mick Schumacher heads across the paddock, there is a whole train of people following him, all desperate for an autograph. Guan Yu Zhao goes defensive, keeps Nikita Mazepin at bay. And the one that's fading on this lap, Ralph Aaron, look, number 7, he's falling now back into the clutches of that pack behind him. Guan Yu Zhao makes the attack on the outside. Together they run now up towards the Variante Ascari, but Ralph Aaron can't fend him off. Round the outside comes Zhao, place gained, and that now puts him up into 8th spot. A few laps ago, Ralph Aaron was the mover. Now he's dropping back again as the traffic tows itself past. Joey Mawson down in 13th, having been 10th early on. He's at the back of this group, trying to salvage something out of it, as Zhao and Aaron go toe-to-toe. Mazepin and Daruvula do likewise, and Aaron round the outside of Guan Yu Zhao gets a place back. Or does he? Goes wide. Door is wide open, and there Mazepin very nearly in Lissoni. So wide does he go? He's back on track now. Did it benefit him at all? Let's see. He's on the tail of Daruvula. Zhao and Aaron absolutely side by side as they come past the pits, down towards the first chicane. Everybody else trying to benefit from a tow behind them. Daruvula is up past Mazepin, and Ralph Aaron breaks as late as he dares, gets the place. Zhao comes under immediate attack. And there is an incident between Günther and Ericsson being looked at. That must have been the one that squeezed Ericsson up the escape road. The stewards are going to have a look at that as we look now at an effort from Daruvula up the inside of Guan Yu Zhao. He's got the inside line as they turn their way through the Curva Grande. There'll be one lap to go at the end of this. Are they all going to survive? Zhao on the inside line. There's a lock up there as well. Look from Mazepin, who bounces over the curbs. Then he has to go defensive and he squeezes Marino Sato towards the cross. And Sato survives. As that round the outside comes Joey Mawson. He gains a place back then. So Joey Mawson fights his way up into 12th. Big deal, you might think, because he's still out of the points despite a really impressive opening lap. Callum Islet up front, a second to the good, and there will be one more lap to go because the clock now hits 0. So there's the regulation lap to start any moment. Joey Mawson, 96 there, the Australian driver, last year's German F4 champion, fending off the challenge behind him of Marino Sato. Mawson led, but lost out in the MRF Challenge in the final weekend in Chennai. But a handy single-seater racer, undoubtedly. Callum Islet then, over the line. He leads by 1 second, starting the last lap. Marino Sato back behind Joey Mawson for 12th and 13th places. Behind the leaders, Günther is 3rd, Ericsson is 4th, Habsburg 5th, Schumacher 6th, Piquet is 7th, Aaron is 8th, Daruvula is 9th, and Zhao is 10th. But there's one more lap to go. What else can we have change out of what has been a cracking race? Fantastic weekend of races, all three have been good, and there's contact between Joey Mawson and Marino Sato. That's what else the race has to offer. Retirement for Mawson with broken suspension. It has not been a great visit to Italy for Joey Mawson, no question. And it ends with the car beached at the chicane. It's the last lap of the race. It's not going to affect safety cars or anything like that because they'll just run to the checkered flag. Zhao fends off the challenge of Nikita Mazepin here for 10th place. Absolutely together. Contact between the two, I think. Mazepin getting into the back of Zhao as he moved across on him. So for the final time, the race leaders work their way down to the Variante Ascari. 1 second separated Islet to Norris. There is Callum Islet, looking to be our 3rd different winner of the weekend and our 3rd double winner of the season. It'll be 2 for Norris, 2 for Ericsson, 2 for Islet. The intriguing thing is, each will have won the equivalent race. 2 race 1s for Norris, 2 race 2s for Ericsson, 2 race 3s for Callum Islet. Through the parabolica they come. Checkered flag at the ready. It's going to be the British driver who wins in Italy. Callum Islet will win round 6 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. Gara bellissima for Callum Islet as he comes across the line. The Prema Power Team engineers applaud a great drive with Lando Norris coming through for 2nd, with Maximilian Günther set for 3rd. Joel Eriksson then 4th, and Ferdinand Habsburg secure in 5th. Mick Schumacher is 6th ahead of Piquet. 7th, 8th will be Ralph Aaron. 9th, Jehan Daruvula, and 10th, Guan Yu Zhao. The racing here this weekend has been the best advert you can have for Formula 3. It has been always unpredictable. So much has happened. There's been no silly driving, very, very few penalties. I think we've only had really a couple of actual contact penalties. 1 or 2 track limit abuse penalties have come down the line and some engine changes, but it has been a brilliant advert for Formula 3. And the teams don't have to face a huge damage bill before they go to Pau, which has often been the case. Pau is a different kettle of fish altogether, of course, with the unforgiving barriers on the quick French street circuit. But here, we've been treated to 3 of the best Formula 3 races for a long, long time. 3 different winners, completely different looking podiums each time as well. So this time around, for example, you've got Maxi Günther and Callum Islet going to the podium with Lando Norris, whereas it was Joel Eriksson and Mick Schumacher earlier on in the day. And Kevin Suri's car is hoiked out of the way. Kevin Andres Suri to give him his full title. I think he prefers, in fairness, Andres, but Kevin Suri is how the entry list has him. So the drivers slowly make their way back to Parc Fermé. Race winner Callum Ilott being congratulated by Mick Schumacher and staying offline, getting some pick up on the tyres, looking after the last bits of fuel in the car, the last droplets, just to make sure that the weight survives. The car will be weighed, he will be weighed. The last time we were here, 2 years ago, 3 wins for Prema and Felix Rosenqvist. Well, Felix here in his driver coaching role, but it's been a win for Carlin, a win for Motor Park, and now a win for Prema. So further evidence that this is an open championship this season. The incident between Sato and Mawson has been noted by the race director, and he will have a look at that, pass it on to the stewards. Confirmation of the top 10. It's a win, the second of the year for Callum Ilott, ahead of Lando Norris, with Maxi Günther going for the podium in third. Fourth, Joel Eriksson, ahead of Ferdinand Habsburg, and then Mick Schumacher from Pedro Piquet, Ralph Aaron, Jan de Rivela and Guan Yu Zhao. Out of the points, Mazepin, Sato, Makino, Beckman, with Harry Newey having had a trip up the escape road in 15th place. Out, Mawson, out, Suri, out, Dennis, out, Hughes. So there'll be some frustrated drivers, that is for sure. But the winners soon to make their way up towards the podium. There is Callum Ilott with his very slow in-lap, and shortly he will make his way into the Parc Fermé area, where the FIA technical team will want the cars. Those that aren't required, marshalled away into the paddock. There, Bob Bassett, with the headset on, is the official marshalling the cars into place where he needs them in order to conduct the checks post-race. So Callum Ilott arrives to a great reception from Prema, which in fairness gets 2 out of 3 for the podium. And a big cheer as the British driver Callum Ilott steps from the car. Win number 2 of the season for him. And Lando Norris, the winning rookie driver, second of the rookies, Mick Schumacher, third, Jan de Rivela. And that will be the second podium. René Rossam, the Prema boss, congratulates his man. Callum has a very proud, very supportive mum who will be here somewhere. Let's have a quick look back, though, as we wait for the drivers to go to the podium. Some of the best bits of race 3 here from Monza. It all began with that great start being made by Callum Ilott to fend off the traffic on the run down towards the Rettifilio. Joel Eriksson slotting in behind him, but it wasn't long before the Swede started to lose places as the field wriggled its way through the Curva Grande out of the chicane. Lando Norris, early doors, down in 4th place. It was Guan Yu Zhao that was in 2nd spot, but he too would fade, and as Maxi Günther lost a bit of momentum coming out of the Erogia chicane, Lando Norris pounced. The next target for him was Joel Eriksson. Job done. Up into 3rd went Norris. Next target was Guan Yu Zhao, and it wasn't long before he was on the tail of the Chinese driver. Other great battles involved Ferdinand Habsburg trying to find a way past Ralph Aaron. Joel Eriksson getting himself up with Maxi Günther. And Lando Norris shadowing Guan Yu Zhao's every move as they work their way up through the Variante della Roggia. They accelerated their way into the first of the Lesmo bends. Through on the inside went Lando Norris to pick up 2nd place. And then the charge began to try and catch up to the race leader, but he just could not get there in time. Others making progress. There was the battle between Kevin Andres Suri and Jan de Rivela, but that ended in disaster, certainly for Suri, off the road as Ralph Aaron tried to work his way up the order in the high-tech car, and Guan Yu Zhao started to lose places, having run 2nd early on. He ended up down in 10th place. We had a great battle between Joel Eriksson and Maxi Günther for 3rd. Eriksson gained the place, lost it, Günther took it back. They worked their way through the 2nd chicane, still nose to tail. In the end, it was Günther that got himself onto the podium, despite the best efforts of Eriksson. And this was his last chance, really, where he was given a bit of a squeeze, and in fact ended up heading up the escape road. The consequence of that was a big gap, big advantage for Günther, but that is going to be investigated post-race by the officials. There was this at the last lap, Joey Mawson getting involved with Marino Sato. Broken suspension put him out of the race, and at flag fall, Callum Ilott, the race winner, by 7/10 of a second. In fact, the same margin that Ericsson defeated Norris by in race 2. 7/10 is becoming the sort of bogey number for Lando Norris, because that's what he couldn't make up. Race 2 couldn't make it up in race 3. We have the top 3 overall, and they'll be joined by the third-placed rookie driver. But to confirm the championship, how about this? Heading to Po, 1 point in it as Lando Norris brings down Joel Ericsson's advantage from 7. It is Ericsson from Norris then. 104 plays 103. Third is Callum Ilott getting back into the mix ahead of Maxi Günther, and then Mick Schumacher 5th from Jake Dennis. Jan de Ruvela, Ferdinand Habsburg is in 8th. And Pedro Piquet's had a pretty decent third race here, because that drags him off the tail end of the table, puts him up to 14th with 8 points to his name now. He's ahead of Nikita Mazepin. So, Callum Ilott, the British driver, makes his way between the Deutsche Post grid girls onto the podium. He will be joined in a moment by a representative of Prema Power Team. We'll wait and see who they send. Lando Norris for second place. He's been a regular on the podium over the course of this weekend here, with a win and 2 seconds. And then for third, Maximilian Günther, who is happy, and I dare say relieved as well, with a podium finish here. So for Callum Ilott, the national anthem is played, and now the presentations have been made, first of all by Carlo Conti, the Chief Administrative Officer of the Automobile Club d'Italia. Callum Ilott, the Prema driver. And then for Prema Power Team, Davide Fattoni, the sporting manager of the Automobile Club Milano, hands over the trophy. And then Carlo Conti returns to give the second place trophy to Lando Norris. Maximilian Günther with the third place trophy. And everyone huddles together now for the photographs. Drivers and winning team. And Callum Ilott taking a second victory of the season. So, as I say, they win the equivalent race both times. 2 race 1s for Lando, 2 race 2s for Joel Ericsson, 2 race 3s in terms of wins for Callum Ilott. The champagne awaits. They don't need the overalls for a few weeks. Lots of applause from the teams at the pit lane. The way the Monza podium is, that it juts out across the top of the pit lane, a bit like the Le Mans podium, for example. And the fun begins, especially at Prema, with 2 out of 3 on the podium. Even the cameraman gets the soaking, and so does the lens. Confirmation of the results. 20 laps again. Callum Ilott the winner from Lando Norris, and Maxi Günther third. Fourth, Joel Ericsson. Ferdinand Habsburg fifth. Good weekend for him, and Mick Schumacher taking sixth ahead of Pedro Piquet, Ralph Aaron, Jan de Ruvela and Guan Yu Zhao. Out of the points, Mazepin, Sato, Makino, Beckman, Newey. Out of the race, Mawson, Suri, Dennis and Hughes. So we will wait for the rookies to make their way up to the podium. And Joel Ericsson, the championship leader, by just 1 point, going to Po over the weekend of May 2021. If you've never been to Po, then I would commend it to you. It's a fabulous place, and the circuit, especially if you go and stand at the Fosse chicane, is absolutely breathtaking. So it's a very popular place for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, and that is the next stop. Now, we have the rookie podium, and Lando Norris is back because he is, and his driving belies it, still a Formula 3 rookie. Last year a double Formula Renault champion, Euro Cup and NEC. But here he is, top step of the rookie podium, with second, Mick Schumacher. who will get a great reception, I'm sure. Yes, he does. And then Jan Daruvula for third place. The Force India junior driver should be out in a moment. There he is. So Lando Norris, Mick Schumacher and Jan Daruvula are three top finishing rookies. The British national anthem played for Lando Norris as the rookie winner, and he will be, I'm sure, very happy with his pace this weekend. Not the first time he's raced here, of course, but first time he's been here in Formula 3. He was good in testing in the week, good in free practice, and he's racking up points nicely, and he's very much in the mix, of course, as far as the championship is concerned. Mick Schumacher, who's being a bit more of a slow burner, perhaps, in terms of results in Formula 3. He's had his first podium of the weekend outright. That was earlier on today. He remains what you might say there or thereabouts, but not yet perhaps as consistent as Lando Norris. The same might be argued of this man, the Force India junior Jan Daruvula, who has shown good pace with pole and second in the first race, but he's had two rookie podiums in addition to that, out of races 2 and 3. So Daruvula remains a man to watch, and that's the beauty of a long 30-race championship like this. You can see how drivers' fortunes ebb and flow, how they improve, how they come on over the course of the season. The Henkel Trocken is sprayed. Mick gets Lando, Lando gets Jan, and the photographers try and keep out of the way as best they can. It's been an all-action weekend at Monza, and the championship, for all the right reasons, has gained plenty of attention this weekend with some fabulous racing. We'll see you at Po. Bye for now.